Okay. It gets like
So what was all the family there for?
that far from the shore, and it goes.
It was David's birthday.
Kind of does that, and then
present from
get it in.
Went
sideways?
Kind of went sideways, and it went like that, and then
weekend at the zoo.
I get it like that far from the shore. I'm like, my pole's bending like this.
Oh, right on.
It was just
That's
John
not long.
Angie, Lucy, June, me and David.
Okay.
I like get it. They went
Yeah, so much fun.
pop right off.
Yeah.
Like I had it like right the hook right here.
Nice weather days like
And it's
this.
like,
And
how am I gonna get plop?
Missing, like,
Okay.
I told her,
I don't have to worry
last night, she looks like Sloth from the Goonies. She's only got like 3 teeth. Like,
Because the pipes, they have like really sharp teeth.
I know.
So
but you see her now, she's like eating pizza. She like
Yeah.
shoves it way into the side. And then
that's the second one I caught out of that river.
Really?
Caught one out behind the waterworks. Waterworks.
the training wheels on. So now, like,
And that was off of a
ever since
chub.
Saturday, and like every day, like, can I go in the garage and
One of those little chub twirly tail deals. This one I caught it on a like a minnow with 2 treble hooks.
Right?
It's like a decent sized minnow. I have it, but my phone took a bath.
That's a bummer.
I am. I finally got everything ready.
yeah.
Now she's out sweating right now. It's not gonna shoot.
I am. I'm ready.
I know.
Hey, I didn't want to go snooping in your garage. Is the cones there from last year? Collis was supposed to borrow them during Dickens. Shoes attached under the glass. Would you look? I mean, it's important because there's so much commotion right now. Hey, Mark's going to take care of you on both vehicles. He says he's got touch of paint for you. No. So
There's been a change to the agenda.
no reason
Yes.
for all you. We're family. There ain't no reason. You know, it'll work out.
3, 4, budget study session for ALS.
Let's sit down.
I'll call the meeting to order. We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and not.
Roll call.
Oh. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
Alsop.
Here.
Kirkshank.
Here.
Heifel.
Here.
Shield.
Here.
Musgrave.
Here.
Rankin.
Here.
McKinney.
Here. Next on the agenda, consent agenda. Am I right? Okay. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the village council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after consent agenda. Approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda.
Make the motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Approve, or support.
Glad you approved.
Motion and
Support.
support. Roll call.
Heifel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Kirkshank.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. Prior to addressing council, please state your name and address for the record. Yes, sir. Rick, please.
Rick Powers, 816 Holly Bush Court. I just wanted to acknowledge 2 or 3 people here tonight. We had our Veterans Appreciation Breakfast last Saturday, and we had 2 of the biggest helpers were there. Ryan, with his very, very competent assistant, Jerry Walker, were working in the kitchen, greatly appreciated. They did a good job. All kidding aside, it was a big success. It was a big success because you were there working. Thank you very much. And also, Richard Kinman also did the invocation. Thank you to all of you. The Moose thanks you, and the Veterans Outreach Program thanks you.
Rick, I'm sure no one would object if you use your full 4 minutes to talk like that. Go right ahead.
Well, I do have a few complaints about me. No.
I don't think that's the direction he wanted you to go.
No.
Old business. Consideration of approval of ordinance 452, amending section 72.01 A, B of chapter 72 of the Code of Ordinances.
This is the ordinance that was amending our snow ordinance. It was recommended by the Charter and Ordinance Committee, and last council meeting you asked that we confirm that it did not mess with or change in any way any of the parking downtown or in any of the parking lots downtown. And so I checked and pulled both of the ordinances. They're separate chapters. They always have been separate chapters. And Attorney Gildner confirmed we do not have to mention anything in it because it is only for the downtown streets like it was before.
All right. So just to confirm what's going on, the current ordinance is from November 15th to April 15th. There's no parking on the village streets from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. The change proposed is to do away with that entirely, go to a snow emergency ordinance, which means if the weather service out of White Lake or Flint calls for 2 inches or greater, it automatically kicks in that there's a snow emergency ordinance and there is 0 parking on the streets regardless of the time of day. And then 24 hours after the snow has ended, the snow emergency is lifted and you can begin to park in the streets 24/7 until the next snow emergency.
Any further comments?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 452, amending section 7201 A and B of chapter 72 of the Code of Ordinances.
Support.
There's a motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alsop,
Yes.
Kirkshank,
Yes.
Hypo,
Yes.
Shield,
Yes.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Second item in new business, special event, Ferry Day.
Okay.
Wait,
So actually,
I'm
there's
sorry,
one more.
Wait, we're correct. Waterworks building progress update.
Yeah, so actually, I had spoken with Mr. Hoffman today. He was planning on attending. He is not here at this time, nor is Supervisor Cullis. Council's prerogative, but perhaps we could pass this, move on to new business, and then see if they arrive.
That was my idea, I think.
I think it was your idea, yes.
That's what you remember.
I'm running for cover.
That's
there,
right. You
yeah.
went right to new business.
Okay, new business. Consideration of approval of text amendment to zoning ordinance 15707.076 C4I4.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So tonight, normally, the first meeting of each month, we try to reserve for study sessions for items that would require more time than just a regular meeting. However, the first 3 items that are under new business, those are all on your agenda tonight because they're timing issue that requires them to be dealt with before the next meeting. So the first item is consideration of approval of a text amendment as specified by the village president. On April the 25th, 2018, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to receive comment on this proposed text amendment. And basically, businesses in the downtown district right now, they can have cafe style or open seating in the downtown. It can be on the sidewalks that are under the control of the village with approval of meeting certain conditions which are monitored by the code enforcement and the building official in my office. The main requirement that they have is to leave a 5-foot wide passage so that it's adequate for pedestrians. The one prohibition that was in the ordinance was that there could not be the sale or consumption of beer, wine, or spirits, so any type of alcohol on the streets.
That is. So, I have to get back on a roll now.
Oh, don't start over.
Rewind.
Please don't start over.
So this idea actually has been kicked around for a couple of years. There's been discussion on this in various boards, commissions, as well as the Downtown Development Authority. And so it has surfaced that there's some interest in it in the downtown. So we presented the idea to the DDA board and also talked about it at the Planning Commission level, and I think I've mentioned it in a previous council meeting also. And so I think that there's support for this, but basically the current ordinance as it is now prohibits that type of activity, sale or consumption, in these cafe-style seating areas. This text amendment would allow for the sale or consumption of beer, wine, or spirits in those areas if expressly approved by the council. And so that's the amendment itself. The amendment itself is not dealing with any one specific business, but dealing with the amendment of the ordinance.
I'll make the motion that we approve the text amendment to zoning ordinance 157.076 C4I4.
Support.
There's motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing
Just
none.
for reference,
Go ahead.
as the Planning Commission liaison, there was nobody at the public hearing, and it was unanimous from the Planning Commission as well. So.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Is this something that has to be renewed each year, or is there a time frame that once you have a sidewalk cafe that you're allowed to serve liquor on, you're allowed for as long as you want, or does it ever? Is it
Yeah. So we had discussed both options. The way that the amendment and the proposed application is at this time is that once approved, and as long as the business met the requirements of the sidewalk cafe, that the approval would be there. I mean, certainly council could limit it to an annual approval process if they wish.
I just seem to remember that we've approved Andy's, Andy's Cafe having their outside seating. I seem to remember approving that every year.
Because they apply under a different process. They apply under the special event process because they're actually in the parking lot or parking spaces. So that's the difference in the two.
Difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. Item number 2, special event permit Ferry Day. This again is another one which would normally be carried in consent, but it was not submitted until yesterday. And so I just think an oversight on the organizers. The thing with this event, as it is presented by the organizers, they are not requesting to close down any of the streets in the downtown, so they are not requesting any additional services from the village. We appreciate getting these event requests, even if organizers are not wanting any services, because it allows for our police and fire departments to plan. This is a recurring event. It's happened in the past, so I think we're fine. But we have encouraged the organizers in the future, if they're going to do this again, to be a little more timely on their application, but we would recommend approval.
My only concern with this one is it's little kids downtown for 3 hours and we're not closing the streets. Now, I remember a couple of fair days, we're talking hundreds of kids.
Yeah, so they sold a little over 100 tickets for this. I spoke with one of the co-organizers on that, and they think it's a situation that they can handle. I mean, it definitely will put more responsibility on the parents, but I mean, I think that that's something that they want to undertake it in this fashion, and I think probably the majority of the business owners will be happy. But
well, I know that. But I would say one of the underlying absolute street closures is when the children are involved, and since this is a child event, I don't know. I have a little bit of an issue with that. I don't have a problem with the event application at all. I'm just talking about the street closures.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I mean, I think it's a good point. I mean, I'm not sure if Chief Story has any comments.
We were just talking about leaving barricades down there from the car crews that week in case there is an issue.
Okay. So if you guys will handle it administratively, I'll be fine with that. Okay. Perfect.
Motion to approve special event Ferry Day.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hypo.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Just for a clarification on that, though, just so everybody walks away with the same understanding, while the barricades will still be down there, I'm not 100% sure that they'll be employed unless the police department, determines that they're necessary.
I would just, I guess, request that an officer be down there at the start to get an idea of what's going on and
Sure.
then make the call at that time.
Absolutely.
Even if there's just a car sitting at the corner with the lights going, that would, I think,
Sure. We'll leave it up.
indicate that there's something going on and
Yeah.
slow down and pay attention, keep your eyes
Yeah,
peeled.
or signs.
Chief will
Yeah.
take care of it.
Yeah. Well, we know the chief will handle it, but
All right, very good. All right, item number 3 under new business, consideration of approval for the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, and/or spirits in conjunction with sidewalk seating and cafe application for 202 South Saginaw. I'm helping the president out tonight. So as I said previously, we actually have been discussing sidewalk cafes and the service and sale of alcohol in the commercial business district, which basically would be the downtown. I mean, basically, you leave those sections of sidewalk in front of businesses predominantly at the corners of South Saginaw and Maple, Battle Alley, South Saginaw, Civic, and then Junction. So those places where it veers out. Currently, the Vault has an application in with the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for outdoor sales and in this cafe-style seating type area, but it requires local approval. And so, as we've amended the ordinance, once it's published, then it will be effective. But the Vault, they wish to be the first applicant to be considered for approval, and probably, while there are those other locations that would be appropriate for this type of approval, the Vault already has a liquor license with the MLCC. So what they're looking for is just that outdoor sales approval. So they completed their application. The last part of the application is the part that's applicable for council tonight regarding the outdoor sales. They also have included a sketch of some proposed fencing. That really has nothing to do with the approval process tonight, but I thought you might want to see it. It still will have to be submitted to the village office for final approval for any of the fencing. It will have to be consistent with the standards that we have down there with a black wrought iron type look. You can have some other additions to it, but predominantly black wrought iron. But most importantly, it will have to meet the requirements of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. And so this is before you tonight for your consideration. The owners of the Vault are here with us tonight if you would have any questions for them.
I make the motion to approve the application.
Support.
Motion support. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
Hypo.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Now.
Before we actually move into the last new business item, which is a budget study session, I believe Mr. Kinnaman called Supervisor Cullis, and he was under the impression that they were going to present at the second meeting of the month, I assume, which is always dangerous, because of the deadline of the end of May. However, again, it's council's discretion on what you want to do.
I knew that in the beginning that the setup was the first meeting in a month for the 6 months.
What's
Yeah,
2 more weeks?
I was under the assumption we would get the presentation tonight and take a vote on it at the next meeting. It's going to be tough to take a vote on the presentation on the night of the presentation without really being able to go over any of the facts and figures that they give us at the last session or the last presentation.
What was it?
But
There wasn't anything at the last presentation, wasn't there?
well, there was an update of the people they had spoken to and the ideas that they had and the balls that they had gotten rolling and some of the the schools that that got involved and that sort of thing. But there wasn't. I don't think there was anything. There was it's not like they had a design
There's
plan.
no financial plan in
right,
place.
there was no money yet. They had meetings with the money people, but no
one's ponied up.
There's
right.
no budget.
They didn't have any checks in their hands. That's for sure.
Well, our choice is to, there's not going to be a presentation tonight.
There's going to be no. No.
And
So your choice is you can
Postpone
postpone it and put it on the next agenda, or you can not put it on the next agenda and put an action item on the next agenda.
It needs to be handled at the next meeting. There needs to be something on the agenda for us to vote on, whether they do a presentation or not.
Or you could do both, absolutely.
Well, it should be on the next, I agree, it should be on the next agenda. And I'm not adverse to having a presentation, but I agree that if it's of any substance whatsoever, it's not I called him and he didn't call me back. If it's more than that.
We're going to want to mull over the
or
ideas
not.
that they're giving. I would have a hard time, like I said, if there's any substance to the presentation, making a decision right then. I wouldn't be averse to waiting until the first meeting in June and making a yay or nay decision at that point.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I've heard that before.
Can I second that motion?
There's never been anything to remove the current demolition. We've just stalled.
Postponed it, yep.
So if there's nothing going on at the last meeting, there's nothing taken to forestall it in the future. Demo continues after the May meeting, after the second.
And
meeting.
we could put an agenda item on. We could put an item on the agenda that says, vote whether or not we're going to keep the waterworks building, and if there's enough substance to their presentation, we could postpone that until the next meeting.
Yes.
That
If
sounds
if
fine
it's
to me.
worthy of.
We can keep kicking a can down the road, essentially.
Well,
We-
if
Well,
they
it
give us
stops
if
at
they
the
give us
first
something to
meeting
think
in
about,
June.
then I think that that it might be worthwhile. If they don't, if they come back with a meeting like we had last time, where they just say, "Oh, I talked to this person and talked to that person, and this person thought it'd be a great idea," then there's really nothing of substance to mull over.
I agree.
Yeah, my expectation is it'll be another iteration of the past 5 months. We're trying to get things together and that kind of thing. So.
I'll make the motion that we postpone this Waterworks building progress update until the next meeting. However, if there is no substance to what they are presenting, then we have the option of making the decision at that point to move forward with demolition or postponing our decision until the first week in June.
I support.
First meeting in June.
I'll support.
Motion and support. And the update we got wasn't a request for a postponement. This is by the grace of the council here, really. It was
That's
our
correct.
council's
Right.
idea and council's discretion. Any further comments or questions regarding the motion? Hearing none, roll call.
Musgrave,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
Alsop,
Yes.
Cruikshank,
Yes.
Heupel,
Yes.
Shield,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried.
One more stay of execution.
The lights aren't
double
flickering yet.
digits.
That's not till midnight.
Is it, you want to say item 4, budget study, or do you want?
No, I'd love to.
You've done the first 3.
I'd love to. So we've had some discussion as we've moved through the budget study sessions throughout the year regarding fire department operations, specifically advanced life support, ambulance service. Chief McGee has done quite an exhaustive investigation and study on different options that the village would have. And so Chief McGee is going to present his study in brief tonight, and then present a recommendation to council. And really, what this recommendation was, we've already had 5 budget study sessions. This being the 6th meeting where we've talked about different components of the budget, but this will allow us to put the final touches on the budget. You have the budget as is right now, but this will, depending on what direction council chooses, will allow us then to finalize the budget, amend it prior to your next meeting. But I think it's some good work that the chief has done, so I think we look forward to hearing it. I hope.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I think in your packet you have kind of a brief version of the options that that we evaluated, and really to start off, the objective of this is to give the best care we can to our residents at the least expense, and so that kind of led the way as all this analysis took place. We did did this like a business paper. We did a SWOT analysis with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to each one. We looked through everything we could and tried to make the playing ground, the field fair. So, as you know, for the past almost 10 years now, Groveland has provided advanced life support. And just so you know the difference, right now we're basic life support, which means we have an ambulance that can transport to the hospital. Advanced life support means we have 12 leads, we can look at your heart, we can start IVs, we can intubate, we can give drugs, we can do all those sort of things. So it's important, and we, as you've seen, saved a lot of lives with advanced life support with Groveland's help. We have quite a few paramedics in the department already. More are coming this way because they have a sense of what's happening here. As you know, Groveland sent a letter a few months ago saying that when I left Groveland that they didn't want to do that anymore, and there's a fairly good option that NACFA and Groveland will combine, and so I'm not sure how that's all going to work out. So I've met with Groveland to see if they would extend the contract, and they said they did, as you saw. They would. They're considering it. I don't know if they will, honestly. But you can see really the cost to the village would be about $8,700 a month for that. And the way we would operate is the way we are now, with a little change. During the days, there would be 2 people on duty, 10 hours a day, 7 days or 5 days a week for the paramedic. And we would cover those calls during the day, and at night, Groveland would come over, and on weekends, and on multiple calls. So I don't have a very strong sense that that will happen, just because of the negotiations between the 2 departments, NACFA and Groveland. I also met with NACFA, which was the next bullet point, and Chief Lynn spent a ton of time on this. And the way they staff right now is they have 1 advanced life support truck, 24/7 on Grange Hall Road, and the row station has 1 person. And if we contracted with NACFA, they would staff that other station with a second person, so there would be 2 people. But it's still 72 square miles with 2 trucks. So again, that's good, but the cost to that. So they would bill us a stipend for every call that they responded to, whether they were canceled or not, which I understand. Jeremy went through the numbers, and the village manager and supervisor from Holly did as well, and the clerk. And so we spent a lot of time going through that and understand his numbers, but that and then they would keep the billing amount. So the billing amount, just so you know, that's about $160,000 a year, maybe a little more than that. That is the value out there, I guess, if you could say so, reimbursement. So that would cost $17,000 a month, which is almost, that's $9,000 more. We then went to private providers and talked to a lot of them, and they must have the same playbook, because if you wanted to have a Star ambulance or you fill in the blank ambulance sitting in the village 24/7, it's $600,000. So, and then they get to bill too. So you pay $50,000 a month for the ambulance to be here with their personnel. They pay for the insurance, fuel, trucks, and things, and then they get to bill, which is again that other $13,000. So that would cost us $50,000 a month, which is just not tolerable. Then we started playing with some hybrid versions, asking around, what if we staffed your truck and you did the insurance and all that sort of thing. And so we would staff the truck, 24/7, 365 with an EMT and a basic EMT, and then they would get the billing too. So that would kind of be their fund, or their payment would be that money that was collected. So we'd fill out their paperwork, and STAR in this example would get that money, but we'd have to pay our personnel, which is the $15,000 or $19,000 a month. So as it all comes down to, what if we do it? And we have the talent, we have the trucks, and it's possible. So for us to staff, it's that same $19,000 number, but now we get to bill. So we would bill the patient and insurance and private provider, and I did a 4-year study, and this is the low, really. It's $13,000 a month. It would be more than that. So if you take that $19,000 in wages and you subtract out the revenue coming in, it really takes us down to about $6,300 a month, which seems high, but we're paying, if you go to the kind of my conclusion for the whole thing, is we're paying $4,500 now, have offered Groveland $5,500 just is, for one piece of it. And then we now still pay for $3,500 to cover the days. That would go away. That would just be combined into one line. And so that would save there. We would get the other money, and we actually offered to pay Groveland their dispatch fees, which is a little over $30 a call, to entice them to add to the amount of money they were getting, because they would have to pay the $30 to have the dispatch called and be sent here. So at the bottom, at the end of the game, we break even, and so it really doesn't cost us anything. It's about what we're doing now, within a couple dollars, and the bonus is we get 2 people here to cover 2.5 square miles, 24/7, 365. It doesn't cost any more. They're paramedics. It helps with our ISL, moving the building down the street to Midtown. With that, some other ideas that staff have about how we will staff fire department during the days, maybe using DPW guys on a fire, maybe a police officer, just helping each other in an emergency during the day. We strengthen our numbers, and we're in ISO 3, which was wonderful news. That should save everyone at least 5% on their, or maybe even 10% on their home insurance and business insurance, effective August 1st. But if we go down even more, it could add another 10%. So people could be seeing a 20% reduction in what they pay for that. So, and it doesn't cost us any money, and we get better protection. So at the end of the day, that's really my recommendation, and I think the village managers as well. And we've spent a lot of time going through all the numbers and what ifs and those scenarios. A couple hoops that we'd have to go through to make that happen is we have to go to medical control and ask for that, because technically June 15th we have no more advanced life support, so 5 weeks or so. And so last Thursday I went to Med Control, the quality PSRO it's called, and it's like the quality assurance place, and I filled out the packet just to start the ball rolling, so we didn't waste any time, and we got they almost clapped. It was that good. So they said it's a great thing to do. Our EMS coordinator is actually a captain on Groveland. I don't know if you've met Jamie, but she lives in the village, and she's a physician, and so she'll be our, whatever happens, she'll be our EMS coordinator, and so we'll have the only doctor in the state as our EMS coordinator, and she'll work shifts as well. So it's substantially less than she makes, by the way. But we have some great assets that are in and around the village that really want to help make this work. I don't know. I guess one other bonus thing, we applied through FEMA, the feds, for something called the SAFER grant. You heard us talking about it, and you actually are behind this. We talked about it last fall, and what this is the village would pay 25% of the first year's salaries, and then the second year, and the same, and the third year 65%. And so we put in for some job shares in that, so part-time people basically. And if we get this, and it looks very good. I've got already very positive feedback on that. Not only will it pay everything I just told you about, but it'll give us another $100,000 the first year back into the budget, the regular budget. So for the first couple of years, and we'll find out the fourth quarter of this year, we could be really looking good. And as you know, as this progresses, we'll let you know. But it's really up to the council which way to go. But I would recommend this gives the best is the best value and is the best service for our residents.
What about long-term costs? You said you ran like a 4-year model. Our equipment today, what's the the quality of that? Like, are we going to look at a new ALS ambulance next year for $200,000 or those kind of things?
Well, it's a very good point. So different people do different things, and we bought our first new ambulance last year, and that has a life of between 7 and 10 years based on the way we use it. We also have a 2004 ambulance that we bought used from Independence as our backup ambulance. And that is in still okay shape for what we do here and as a backup. And then the vehicle I drive is going to have advanced life support, paramedic, all this stuff on it. So we'll be able to respond with that, so we can technically do a third call with it and then call anybody, Springfield or North Oakland. And the nice thing with this system is now if we call North Oakland or Groveland or whomever, it's not mutual aid because we can't help them the same they can help as they can help us. Mutual aid means you can provide the same service back and forth. So there would be, if we got 3 calls at once, and that happens, we could handle 2 of them, and then we could call for an assist from North Oakland or Independence or whomever, and they wouldn't bill us because we do the same for them.
Gotcha.
So
right now we have basic life support. So what would be the ramp-up cost to take us to that advanced life support?
Well,
not counting this.
Yeah. So what I did several years ago, it's not much. I won't go over budget the current year that we're in now. I can buy everything up. It's about $8,000. A couple tools. We need another 12 lead, which checks your heart all around. We need to be able to intubate. Those are some tools. And this sounds terrible, but we have a drill that you drill into the bone in the lower leg to start IDs if you need to, and that's $600. So there's some little items like that. It's not huge. We bought one 12 lead 2 or 3 years ago here in the village, which really has helped us immensely. So what happens now, we teach all our EMTs and even new firefighters how to hook up the stickers. It's not that hard. Hook up the stickers, you press on, you press, find out their age and do that and have them stay still. And when the paramedics get there, they don't know what they're looking at, a bunch of squiggly lines, but they turn around and show us. And if it's a STEMI or some certain heart rhythms, we can say, we got to go fast. And so it saves us 5 minutes or 3 minutes at the beginning. So we've been doing that already, and we already have one of those. And a new machine like that is $30,000. So we buy refurb, and we get it for about $4,900. And it works just as well. It's guaranteed, all the same things.
All right.
Sounds great to me. I highly respect your opinions, and
I like the sound of 2 EMTs over 2.5 square miles, a lot more than 3 EMTs over 70.
Exactly.
Well, and the other part of this that really I haven't even talked about is you control this. If we go private, it's the privates, and they might get a transfer. They might, who knows. Another is, North Oakland. While I like their organizational setup, we'd be 2 votes out of 7, and that is a factor. And so by us doing it, it's the council's choice how we handle it, and that I think has some benefit.
I think we keep local control and spend the least amount of money, and provide the most bodies per mile.
So and enhance our own department.
Well, yeah,
it's too good to be true.
I know.
Yeah, in this day and age, I mean, typically we're combining and sharing services. We're introverting and making sure we're doing it our own, and that's.
Well, I think part
it
of that
goes against the trend.
It does.
I'm not very well versed in how the things work in the in the medical emergency world, but in my mind, I'm thinking that the fact that we're only covering 2.5 square miles as opposed to becoming one of 3 groups covering 70 square miles helps keep our costs down.
Well, and we even at the beginning thought, and we really went all out. We said, should we really even disband the fire department? Mr. Cruikshank's point would it make more sense for us just to combine right now and do it that way? That's about $200,000 more than we're paying now.
Right.
And so that, first of all, as you've seen the budget, we don't have $200,000. And theirs is going to increase a little bit here pretty quick because they're going to give all their people an increase in pay. So their Holly and Rose Township, it sounds like, is going to each going to increase their contribution $50,000. So, we need to have our control about that, and that's a difficult thing for me not to have control or be able to convince you maybe that we're doing it a different way or should do it a different way.
Well, I think one of the things we looked at as we analyzed all the data that the chief collected from all the meetings that he went to was number one priority is service. You know what? I mean, our residents should get the best service that we can provide. Now, it has to be affordable. And so that's where we looked at the next phase. And so, I mean, with this, we think we have a win-win, and we can even personalize the service a little bit because, like you said, we have really the availability of 3 paramedic responses, including the chief's vehicle, as opposed to 2 vehicles covering 72 square miles. So we can personalize, the service that we provide. And so while we certainly are not critical of anybody else's service, we think for our residents we can provide better service, more enhanced and more personalized, and we think in the end that it's going to be cheaper because we know right now that the cost to the NACFA participants are over $500,000 a year for fire service, and so we think our overall package is going to be cheaper. So,
and I'm just to reiterate, I can't say enough good things about North Oakland. I really can't. And their people are good. They train. They have an ISO 3. They're first class. They really are. But this is just makes more sense for us based on cost and the 2.5 square miles. The next step, if you decide to move this direction, is we need to start quickly, and I've done my homework already, to get somebody to do our billing. And it varies from 7% to almost 11%, which depending on the vendor who does that. The reason we need to pick them quickly is we collect all the information on a patient care report and we give it to whichever billing company we choose electronically, and then it's tied to Medicare and Medicaid, the private providers like Aetna and Blue Cross and all those. And so to get our Medicare and Medicaid numbers, you got to start the clock quickly. So if you guys said start it tonight, we'd be doing free calls, and we don't want, we really can't afford to do free calls. So at the next meeting, I'll have, based on what you say tonight, I'll have some suggestions on which way we should go with that and who we should utilize, and because we really need to get that ball rolling. So June 15th is coming up, and we need to have, once it's marked stamped approved by Medicare and Medicaid, we can bill back to that. It takes a little bit, but we'll get paid. But if it hasn't been received, it's a free call. So we'll have to move ahead.
So even though this will be in the 18-19 budget, we want to make a decision tonight.
We really need to, just so we have something, so we don't run out of ALS, on June 15th.
I make a motion that we go with Chief's plan and get started right away.
Motion and support to accept the chief's recommendation for ALS through the Village of Holly. Any further comments or questions? Very good report, a lot of detail. The incremental costs, the difference is really...
Isn't that amazing? It really is. Once you start putting it down, it's,
Right.
it became very clear to me.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's a motion and support. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Alsop.
Yes.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
Heupel.
Yes.
Sheehan.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Public comment. Members of the public can address the council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by majority vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record, please. Any public comments? Hearing none, reports. Mr. Walker?
So I just have one item. So we actually close on 414 North Saginaw this Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And so that building will officially be ours. The chief has already put together some tentative plans and options for the building, as well as contacting people that he has in the construction trade so that we can begin putting together a package. And we plan on presenting to council during the June study session a tentative timetable for the building and cost and those type of facts.
Look forward to that.
That's all.
Ms. Bigger?
We met with our new audit team. My audit will start in a couple of months. We met with her last week. It seems very nice. Pam will still be the head auditor in charge. You guys have all met Pam. But the on-site team will be a new person.
You got to train him.
I hope so.
Don't break them when you're breaking them in.
I hope so, but she seemed very nice, so.
Boards and commissions, commission chairpersons, any?
Planning was what we voted on tonight, so we had a public hearing back then, and then made the recommendation to come up to council for the, serving the alcohol and liquor. Nothing other than that.
Community Center has not met since our last report.
Personnel and Finance has not met.
We had we had a zoning board meeting Monday. We approved the variance across the street from the Villagers Restaurant. That green grass there, it's going to be all pavement. So we approved that.
Is there going to be a building there?
Yeah.
Okay.
What
So
are we
it's not
talking
going to be
about
all
now?
pavement.
Where the Villagers is?
Yeah.
That empty
Piece
lot.
of
The
grass.
empty
Sister
lot.
property?
Yeah.
Okay, between them and the dentist.
I beg your pardon?
Between them and the dentist.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chris?
Parks met. I was ill all of last week, so I wasn't able to make the meeting. I haven't had a chance to catch up with the other members yet, so I don't have a report for Parks.
Ryan?
Historic has not met in a while, so but Hyatt did meet, and I have a report from them. The cash for kids fundraiser that occurred last Saturday brought in $830.47. There were 9 new referrals into the caseworker in the month of April. The number of the 9 were the village residents. The Hyatt caseworker now has a total of 54 students from the Holly area schools on the caseload. Caseworker reported that vaping is common and current trend among the Holly middle school and high school students. Shelley Kidd, the deputy treasurer of Groveland Township, is the representative for the township to Hyatt board of directors. She is reporting that the township is looking into joining NAFCA. Linda Blair is Linda Blair, School Board Secretary, reported there will be school bond issue on the ballot in November, and that Blessings in a backpack is packing 390 to 400 backpacks weekly with food. There is real food need among our student population. And lastly, Haya will be manning popcorn table at the weekly car shows beginning May 9th, or tomorrow, and that Haya will also be present in the Memorial Day Parade, as well as a teen block party sponsored by the Holly Area Community Coalition on Friday, the 15th of June. And lastly, the Haya will be participating in holidays September 7th through the 9th.
Thank you. Council comments. We'll start with you, Ryan. Anything further?
I have none.
Chris?
Nothing further.
Bob?
Nothing.
Deb?
Nothing.
Suzanne?
Nothing.
David?
The only thing I have is the Board of Canvassers did approve that recreational marijuana will be on the ballot in November as well. So, is the Citizens Committee still even meeting? Has there been any updates or any information out of that from Mishler?
We have not received anything personally. I understand that the committee may be putting together a report and final recommendation as they close down in these last few months, but we have received nothing in the office.
Gotcha. Okay. So, it just, as we're sitting around waiting for this moratorium, I would hope that council members are still researching and reading the current law, and that the LARA board in Michigan is starting to approve applications. So we're missing out as we're sitting here.
Any further comments at all? Hearing none, without objection, the meeting's adjourned.
7:52.
Oh my God. Wait till they shut the camera off.